Thanks to Airbnb for sponsoring this episode.
Hi, Pashi.
Hi, Sophie.
A big annual event is coming up.
Oh, yeah, it sure is.
Not just Thanksgiving, which happens to all families across this great nation. The Myers family Thanksgiving episode of Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Yeah.
This is, I think, year 9.
You would know better than I would. It's your show, bro.
Nothing, literally nothing, no recognition crossed your face when I said year 9. You didn't seem impressed, amazed, or anything. You just looked at me
I don't
like,
know. You don't have a big, you don't, no one gets a cake for the 9th year.
I'm going to make a noise that matches Josh's expression when I said it was 9. So it's been 9 years. Now, here's the thing. It's very hard to book talk show guests on Thanksgiving. Obviously, that would make sense. So we double tape. We do 2 shows on Wednesday. And we decided early on it would be fun to have our parents and you come on the show. It's a hit. People really like it. Mm-hmm. I hear about it all year long. Do you get any nerves anymore about coming on?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I sang a song last year. It was a little stressful.
Yeah.
I feel like just as an actor, I get nerves anytime I do pretty much anything.
I get nerves because my parents are on TV. That's where all my nerves come from. And I don't know why. I mean, it's resoundingly positive how much people enjoy the show. Now, I should note something. A couple of things. One, NBC has a NFL football game, the late game on Thanksgiving. That is the most anyone throughout the year watches a primetime program on NBC. And because of that, the Late Night with Seth Meyers episode on Thanksgiving is every year, no close second, the highest rated show of the year. This is 1,000% because it follows an NFL football game. What do you think Mom and Dad attribute that high rating to, Josh?
To them being on the show.
Yeah.
And us as a family.
Yeah, but I think they lean in, because you've been on other times without them and it has not popped the ratings.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's coming up. And that is very exciting. And also, we are going to record another episode with Mom and Dad. We're going to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to see a football game.
An episode of the podcast.
Yes, an episode of a podcast. Good for clarifying. See, look at how many episodes of things we're making these days.
Yeah. Content. We're crushing it content-wise.
So we're going to do an episode of Family Trips. We're going to film it in an Airbnb in Pittsburgh because we are going there to see a Steelers game, which is also annual tradition.
Yeah, we're going to record it, not film it. But
we're not going to film it. Oh, boy, a lot of notes today. All of a sudden, the guy who was like 9 and he was like, now you took whatever drug Robert De Niro took in that movie Awakenings.
Oh, boy. Deep cut.
So, hey, you listen to this, and we had one of our favorite episodes was when our listeners sent in stories and questions. Here's what we're asking. We are going to be sitting with our parents, recording an episode of Family Trips. And if you have any questions for Hillary or Larry, questions about the Myers family, anything that you think might even start a little bit of a dust-up with us.
Oh, yeah. Poke the bear.
Poke the bears. Go to www.speakpipe.com/familytripspod. That's SpeakPipe, SpeakPipe. Do speak pipe. Say it.
Speak pipe. I mean, what do you want?
I wanted you to pop your P, but that was good. Do it like a weird robot.
Speak pipe.
Yeah, there you go. That's good.
Okay. I don't know if you wanted me to spell it again or...
I don't know. I think what you did was great. I don't think anybody's complaining about it.
And the link to that speakpipe.com/familytripspod will also be in the show notes.
Show notes.
Was that you doing SpeakPipe saying show notes?
Show notes. This is very exciting. So we have a very fun episode for you today. Our guests were hosts of another podcast we really love called Podcrushed. And it is a very nice brother or sister podcast. I don't know what you call it to ours because it is also about sort of your awkward teenage years. And it did seem like very much to share some DNA with Family Trips. So this is Penn Badgley and his friends Nava and Sophie. And it's the first time we talked to 3 people who are not Haim sisters.
That's true.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were great. They're really fun. And then also... we did an episode of their podcast. So if you want to hear sort of what goes on their show and hear about our awkward years in greater depth than we might go on to here, then check out Podcrushed, which is really a fun podcast.
It was also a reminder of how much, and again, I really enjoy hosting this podcast, but while I'm hosting it, even though I do it with you, and I feel like we have, look, some people have said, a good natural chemistry. The whole time I'm like, I'm hosting it, I'm hosting. And then it was so nice to be a guest on a podcast.
Yeah. We've done that a couple times, and it is very relaxing.
Very relaxing to be a guest on a podcast. We're really doing a great service to the people who come on ours. You're not going to spend Thanksgiving with us because you're going east with your fiance.
Yeah.
And you haven't come east in a lot of years, and it's nice that you're going to be spending it with her family.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think you're going to eat?
I don't know. There's a turkeyless vegan roast that Trader Joe's makes that I'm a real sucker for.
Turkeyless.
Yeah, because I'm vegan.
I hope at this point everybody knows that.
I hope they don't hold it against me, but they might.
Who knows?
But I'm not going to complain about whatever it is. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll make do.
You're very resilient.
Yeah. I always got a pocket full of nuts in a pinch.
And now they've told you legally to stop saying that around schools, right?
Yeah. I can't say it around schools.
All right. Please enjoy this episode of Family Trips with the lovely host of Podcrushed. But first, listen to our friend, Jeff Tweedy.
Family Trips with the Myers Brothers. Family Trips with the Myers Brothers. Here we go.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh my
I feel like I'm
God.
watching TV. I don't feel like this is happening live. It's so strange.
I feel like I'm talking to professional podcasters. This is what I feel like.
I mean, you are. You need the bump from us.
We
It's pretty
need the
clear.
bump from you.
Clearly.
We'll take the bump.
Also, I definitely want to ask mostly my questions about the chest of drawers behind you.
This is.
Are you redoing it?
These have been my stepson, who's now 14. These have been his for a very long time, and he finally was like, "Ugh, I hate these," and that's what that is. And that was given to us by a friend. What I have to do, you'll know for Zoom, is if it's truly centered on this, it really looks bad. So I
Yeah,
had to just
you gotta
sort of
angle
knock it. I had to just sort of knock it over, and felt a bit silly.
Thank you guys so much for coming on our podcast, because that's what's happening now. And then very briefly, the tables will turn.
Okay.
Very briefly.
We're so
Are you just giving
excited.
us like 10 or 15 minutes?
No, you're going to do the full podcast. Could I ask a question, though? Because I'm far more relaxed about the idea of being a guest on your podcast. Do you feel when you're a guest, you can relax a little bit?
Oh,
since you
so
don't have to
much.
host? Yeah.
So much. I don't know about my co-hosts here. You guys aren't as used to it.
No, this is not our life like it is yours, but it is way more chill. I keep being like, oh my God, where are the questions?
I know,
Where's my
right?
stuff? Are we recording? But I'm like, no, it's up to them.
Yeah, you look relaxed.
Okay,
To be
good.
honest, I feel more nervous because I'm like, why are Sophie and I part of this? And is Seth and Josh, are they going to immediately regret not only inviting Penn?
Yes, that's true.
So
I should say, when I just read some bio stuff about you guys, Nava and Sophie, it seems like your upbringing was massively more interesting than Penn's.
Actually, that's
that's
true.
probably true.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If
Yeah.
we were just doing Penn right now, I would think, I don't know how we're going to fill the whole hour.
Yeah.
I got 2 family trips for you. Okay? I got there's very few.
I do want to start with this because I saw a clip of you, Penn, saying that vacations are a construct. And I just want to, it's a perfect way to start this.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of thoughts about it. I thought what you said was very interesting. This was only a 15-second clip. Do you want to make your argument real quick before we dig into it?
Well, so you know what's funny? What I recall saying, let me just give context. I was doing 8 to 10 hours of press in the Netflix building.
Sure.
During a press cycle for the last season of my show. And I said so many things.
Right.
That I can scarcely recall. I did see this, however, funnily enough, where I'm saying something like, vacation is something of a construct because if you feel like you have to travel, go somewhere else in order to relax, chances are you're never really going to relax. And there's some truth to it. Here's the irony. Not 2 weeks later or something, I went on a vacation for the first time in years to, of all places, South Beach, Miami during spring break. We just went because it was easy, it was quick, it was the most basic trip, and I cannot tell you how much I loved it. I loved it. I was like, there wasn't a thing about it that I didn't like. It was amazing. So I was like,
was it relaxing? It doesn't sound like the right
Well,
place or time to
yeah.
go. Was it relaxing?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it was because we were able to stay at my mother-in-law's apartment, and just being at the beach, just having a horizon when you're in the middle, this is like March in New York City,
Yeah.
where the winter has been long and there's no horizon, and just to have a horizon and like maybe 5 to even 10 hours a day where you literally don't need to touch your phone if you don't have to, like it was just that part of it I just loved. And the warmth, I was so down for that vacation. And it was a vacation. I mean, we were doing the things. We went and saw alligators?
Yes.
And were people on the streets sort of yelling at you like, hey, I thought you said it was a construct?
That's exactly what was happening. It was definitely a bit much, me being where I was. So I'd have to be strategic about going outside with the family and stuff. But even then,
The
then it was
longer
okay.
the press day for Penn, the more esoteric and cynical his comments become.
Absolutely. It's so true.
That's fair, though. Those have to just be brutal, doing that many hours back to back of, I imagine, the same questions
They are.
for the most part, over and over.
They are. And for some reason, I choose to do this thing where I think about the question and answer it authentically. And it's draining. It's draining.
Yeah.
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 Right. That's very nice that you don't just go on autopilot and have your canned answers. I do want to say to you three, this is the second time that we're interviewing three people at once. The first time was the Haim sisters.
Oh,
So
cool.
we're going to see if you guys have the same connection as three.
I think you'll find it's a little stronger.
As three sisters.
Pretty
But
tight.
all right, so you guys have known each other for almost 10 years? Is that about right?
I think so.
that's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have known each other longer.
Longer.
Yeah.
I think, well, maybe
Yes.
11. Maybe that's
No.
obnoxious.
No, we met
11
when I
years?
was 18,
And
right?
you're 29.
Oh, yeah.
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 Hey, this isn't a math podcast, guys, but you did nail
They
it.
are teachers, but
Yeah.
no big deal.
I think Penn and I have known each other last time 5 years,
8,
maybe?
something like 8.
Oh,
I mean,
8
we would have
years.
met 8,
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. But became
Years ago.
friends 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my question. So at what point would the trio of you, would you say that you were officially a group of friends? 5?
When we started the podcast.
Yeah,
Okay,
it would have been the podcast, and it tests that. It definitely
Yeah.
strains the friendship it created.
Would you say the podcast is the reason you're friends, or you have the podcast because you were friends already?
Okay, so Nava here is
Yes.
the focal point. I
Yes.
have a company with Nava. We are friends,
Mhm.
and then Nava's also friends with Sophie and David. We were cool, but we weren't like hanging out
Yeah.
all the time. You know what I mean? Like I love Sophie and David.
I'm just not
But-
friends with them.
But yeah, but I'm just not enough
I'm learning a
to.
lot right now.
No, but the truth is, we didn't know each other that well. We really didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you had asked us a year prior to the podcast starting, if you had asked us, do you think you'll ever be hosting a podcast with that
No.
guy? You'd be like, what?
Definitely not. Yeah.
It's true.
And so,
Yeah.
Nava, you obviously, though, thought these pieces would fit together. Do we attribute the idea that you thought, you know what, Sophie, Penn, and I, this will be good. This will be good alchemy.
Yeah, and originally Sophie's husband too was part of it. So I thought the original idea for our podcast was going to be more centered on relationships than it currently is. And I was like, oh, like a cool young couple, a celebrity to reel in the other celebrities. I was basically just using Penn, and then like a single person, and sort of like all of us sharing from our different vantage points. And then the idea evolved quite a bit. But actually, I would say the three of us are really sweet, and we each bring something different to the table. So it's been really nice. Although Penn's right, sometimes it is a strain on the friendship too.
And
So
how did
it's all
David
things.
take it when you guys kicked him right out of the podcast?
He cried for
He
a
was
few days.
heartbroken. No, he actually recused himself. He
He did.
realized
Yeah, he stepped
we
down.
recorded a couple episodes with David as a host too, and then before we ever released the podcast, and then he quickly was like, I don't know about
Yeah.
this.
You could see it on his face. He was just like, if I recall, we kind of suggested it, but he was sort of like, oh, yes, thank you.
Were
Yeah.
those episodes sort of scrubbed from the record, or did they ever come out?
No, he was just edited out of them. There's I think there's one episode. There's an episode with Io Adebari, if anyone listens, where you can hear David like twice. So
Yeah.
we don't acknowledge it.
Random. No, but he is sort of like a character. He is sort of like a character on our podcast because
Yeah.
he does all the audio. So he's in the
Gotcha.
room always. And so sometimes we refer to him. So for some people, it's like a nice Easter egg. It's like, oh, there was David. You
Yeah.
could hear him laugh.
It also means that he had to edit himself out of those episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty cruel at Podcrushed.
It's
Yeah.
like hiring a hitman and giving him a folder with a picture of himself.
Yes.
All right, so Nava, I want to start with you.
Okay.
Born in California, but grew up in Puerto Rico. It strikes me that you've lived a great many places. But when you were young in Puerto Rico, where did you vacation within Puerto Rico? Did you travel a lot with your family?
So we did both. We did internal tourism. So I grew up in San Juan on the coast, in a part of San Juan called Condado and on Condado Beach. So, but we never went to our beach. So we would go to like the western side of the island and go to the beaches there. That was like a big part of it. It was always beach centric if we did internal tourism.
Why did you not go to your beach?
Like, because we're idiots. I don't know why we didn't go to our beach. Also, the fact that all of our trips were beach centric would suggest that we loved the beach, but we hardly ever went to our beach growing up. And it was literally right there. Like we grew up on the beach.
And was it as beautiful as the West Coast beaches, or was it like these are rocky and the West Coast is sand, so we prefer that?
It was beautiful, but the West Coast was clear water and this was murky water.
Okay.
It wasn't like too harsh or wavy. It was literally
Right.
murky versus clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably to make it feel like more of an adventure, we would go on the West Coast. We did use our beach sometimes, but not that frequently.
How long did it take you to get to the West Coast?
About 3 hours, 2 to
Oh
3
my
hours.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, that you got to really like clear water.
Really clear water, and we would book a little like hotel or a little bed and breakfast. We would stay for a couple days, and then there's an island. This is actually back to the East Coast. There's an island called Culebra. I guess because it's supposed to be like shaped like a snake. Culebra means snake, and that has a beach called Flamenco Beach, which at one point was like ranked top 10 in the world, and that is truly one of the most stunning beaches you can go to. On very special occasions, we would go to Culebra. So you would take like a little boat and go to this island. So that was a lot of it, and then a lot of it was nearby Caribbean islands. So like Tortola or St. John. So like I said, all beach-centric vacations in the Caribbean. That was what we most commonly did. Yeah.
And you have one sibling?
Yes, I have a sister named Jenna, and my parents are Tommy and Farinaz.
And was Jenna how close in age?
Jenna was 3 years older than me.
And did you guys get along well?
Jenna and I fought a lot. We're very close now. I'm trying to think at what point, and I think she and I have different perspectives on it, so I don't want to out my perspective too much, but I think we weren't that close until she went to college. We fought a lot. Yeah. We were the source of all the drama on the family trips. We still are sometimes. So, yeah.
What would sort of work up your ire against one another?
Just existing in the same car on these like drives. I'm trying to think what we would fight about. Stupid things. I remember our friends, because like kids fight, but I remember our friends would point out that our fights seemed particularly stupid, like absurd. And it would be like, you said the wrong word. And they'd be like, no, that is how you pronounce that word. And she'd be like, no, you pronounce it. Like, you're so self-right. It would be like the tiniest thing would set us off. And then we'd be like at each other's.
Can I ask, what language were these arguments in? Because
English. For the
Okay.
most part, English. Yeah. We speak Spanish and Persian, but most things happened in English. Yeah.
Would your parents also, if someone told you to be quiet, or if like you were reprimanded, would that also be in English? Were you bouncing around languages?
My mom would often scold us in Persian. My dad in English. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, my dad didn't scold us that much. He let my mom be the bad cop
Yeah.
most of the time.
That's what I am choosing to do with my wife.
How's that
I was
going?
gonna say, classic man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have two sons and I have a 2-year-old daughter, but my boys are 7 and 5. And the 7 and talking, this is just a good stupid argument because the 7-year-old was yelling at the 5-year-old and he was crying to us and he said, Axel pushed me and he hasn't even said anything about it. And then Axel said, okay, I will say something about it. You are stupid. And it was really, and then it was that thing. It was so well delivered that it was
Did you
very
laugh?
hard not to laugh
Yeah.
and enjoy how much he had just burned his older brother.
Oh, he's the younger one. Wow.
The younger one is, he's the one, he's loaded up with zingers. It's a real problem for the older one. And did you ever travel to the States? I mean, you were
Yeah.
born in California. Did you ever come back here when you were kids? Were those big trips?
The first trip I remember coming back for, I had a cousin who got married in California when I was 12. I think we came for that. The first vacation we took, we went to Disney World in Florida. I think that was the first vacation we ever took to the U.S. It was great. I loved it. Magical.
Were you really excited as a 12-year-old? That seems a little maybe late for a first trip.
No, to the U.S. I was so excited. Also, my dad had a twin brother and he was an Imagineer. So he got us like free tickets to all the parks. And then we knew like behind the scenes stories. And yeah, I think that was one of my favorite family trips. We loved it. It was wonderful.
By the way, the fact that, I mean, twin brother is cool enough, but Imagineer is really doubling down.
Yeah.
And I also want to stress, because I did just learn that an Imagineer is somebody who builds rides at amusement parks.
Yes.
That's correct, right?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I didn't know and I didn't want to
Yes.
ask.
No.
But it's specifically Disney World, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not
There aren't
any-
Imagineers that work for Ford.
Right.
Yeah. So he was the head artistic designer of the Asia part of Animal Kingdom.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm just going to shout out John. He was the head designer of Disney Tokyo.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I hope you were dining out on that as a kid.
Yeah. No, we were in Puerto Rico. We were too isolated to take advantage of him.
Have you ever been to Tokyo, the Disneyland in Tokyo?
No, I'd really like to go. Yeah.
Have you ever been to Tokyo?
No, I've never been to Japan.
That's my number one most want to do.
You haven't been yet?
Working for NBC, it's been really nice when they have the Olympics. You can go to the Olympics, and there was one in Japan, in Tokyo, and then it was the COVID Olympics, so we couldn't go. But that was our plan of when to go.
Maybe this podcast can sponsor a Tokyo
I
trip.
was going to say, how can we somehow leverage
I
this
feel like-
podcast into a
Yeah.
Tokyo trip?
I heard a Nissan ad. Maybe Nissan will.
Josh and I are going, but we're bringing David.
I actually did get to go to Tokyo. I went, I was a freelance writer for this ad agency, and they brought the whole agency to Tokyo, and somehow I got tapped to go as well. And they did have to have sort of some internal meetings, and they would all get together to talk about things that needed to be worked on at the agency. But I was just a freelance guy, so I'd go off and check out a temple or, figure out how to use the subway system or go to this cool neighborhood that somebody told me about. And then I'd get back and I was like, how was your meeting? And like, they were like, people were crying, people were fighting. And I was like, oh boy, like I'm so happy to be a freelance writer here. But it was amazing. It's really something else. You guys should check it out.
Sophie, where did you grow up?
I grew up in a series of 7 different countries. My dad worked for UNICEF, so we moved around every 2 to 5 years. But the bulk of my childhood, like where most of my memories are the Philippines and then China. So I was in Manila and then Beijing.
And so obviously it seems like your very existence was going to a lot of places that people would maybe go on vacations.
Yeah.
But because you traveled so much, would you just stay close for family vacations in those years?
No, sometimes we had like a few vacations that were just like purely vacation. Not very many, but most of the time, most of our travel went towards, my mom is from the UK and my dad is from the US. And so most of our travel was traveling back home to visit family. I recently saw a video where someone was talking about like, we invest our money and that pays dividends, but then you can invest in lots of things. And one of them is memories and travel. And that's what my parents did. Like they spent like a really large portion of their yearly income on just flying back home, flying back to the US every year. Yeah, to visit family. That was a priority for them.
You have multiple siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 older siblings, an older brother and then a sister and then me.
And were you excited about those trips home?
Oh,
When
yeah.
you went? Okay.
Oh yeah, it was huge. The things I was excited about was like Staples. I loved Staples, but there's nothing
store?
like Staples. Yeah.
I was wondering too. It's like, do you mean like milk and bread?
Staples, Best Buy, Target. Those were like the highlight. I would like think about them all year. There was one period of time where we were living in Albania and there was no imported goods. And so we would, over the summer, buy a ton of things. My mom would buy Betty Crocker icing so that like for our birthdays throughout the year, she could ice our cakes.
Wow.
And I would go, they were like in this special closet in the pantry, and I would go and just like dip my finger into these Betty Crocker icing tins.
Would you try to dip in a way that it would not be recognizable?
Oh yeah, try to smooth it over. You can only do it so many times, but
My fiance used to buy frosting when she was a little girl and keep it under her bed, or maybe she would steal it and she would just have like a tin of frosting under her bed
yeah,
as a
quick hit.
as a nice little snack.
She, Josh's fiance, is a beautiful woman with only one tooth.
Can't have it all.
Yeah, I soon
Get it
might
all.
have only one tooth. Honestly, I went to the dentist. It was not.
Of the places you lived, did you have a favorite as a kid?
I think probably like looking back, Beijing was my favorite because I was there for high school. And
Mhm.
so I was like the most independent and I could kind of explore the city sort of on my own. Like I would take the subway places. I think I would say Beijing was my favorite.
Were you in an international school or were you?
Yeah. So my parents knew we would be moving every 2 to 5 years because of my dad's work. And so the only way they could keep our education consistent was to put us in international schools. So yeah.
Gotcha.
It's interesting. The more we talk to people, we realize a lot of people, first time they were on a plane was 14, 15. But it seems like you would probably fly around a great deal based on where your parents
Yeah.
were living.
Yeah. I think the first move we did, we were living in Papua New Guinea when I was born, and we moved to Pakistan when I was 1.
Probably not a direct flight, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's direct flights many places from Papua New Guinea.
Do you remember as a kid like flying and like what your parents would expect of you in the age before iPads? Although you might have been at the early era.
No, there was no iPads, like my first smartphone was when I was 18.
Gotcha.
So that kind of stuff didn't exist, but I actually am blanking. Like my only memory of being on a plane was we would often fly because we're not Christian. We don't celebrate Christmas. And so we would often try and fly on the 25th. And I remember we did go on a vacation to Malaysia and we traveled on Christmas Day. And so the plane was nearly empty. I was probably like 9 or 10 at this point, and I found a row to sleep in. And it was right around the time that movie Flight Plan came out, which is a story of a kid getting kidnapped by the flight attendants. And the flight attendant went up to my parents, who were like at the front of the plane, and just leaned over and was like, "Have you ever seen Flight Plan?"
Cheeky.
Yeah. But I don't have many memories of like how I would entertain myself. Probably with my siblings.
Yeah.
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 A row to yourself is such gold as
Oh, yeah.
a child. Like, because, sometimes people will talk about like being adults and like, oh, I had the whole row. And it's like, that doesn't work for a human, like a full-size human to like lay down. That's not a bed. But when you're a kid, it can
That's
be
first
full
class.
Yeah.
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 It's true.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Penn, you said you've taken 2 vacations in your life.
None of my life was growing up, and it's not many more now. It's not.
It doesn't sound like it.
It's not. When we first talked about doing this podcast, I had heard like the Myers Brothers and stuff. And then the title I didn't encounter until later, listening to your show, and I was like, oh, family trips. Oof. Do I have? So the only one that I could immediately recall was going to Hawaii with my father when I was like 9 or 10. And this is because my mother was working as like a phone rep for Northwest Airlines. I'm pretty sure they don't exist anymore. There's no way.
I think they're now like Delta KLM World.
Yeah. One of the reasons she took the job, I think, was because you could get standby flights for like literally $10 or something. So there was this fantasy of really cheap flights anywhere. But then I think with the fine print and then the fact that you can't really travel that often anyway, we went on one trip and we couldn't even take my mom because she had to work, and it
That
was
seems
not
deeply unfair. So
Yeah.
she took the job, and then
Yeah,
your dad got to go to Hawaii.
again, like it's like this is it's not a fun. Maybe it's funny because it was so miserable.
Aw.
So there's a few things I remember. I remember getting wrapped in the tentacle of a jellyfish in the water.
Uh-huh.
Early in the trip?
Hard to recall. My father and I are driving in, by the way, a white Jeep Wrangler, which was really exotic feeling
hot.
in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I had just gotten like a corduroy Quicksilver wallet with a chain.
That's a very nice
So
purchase.
cool.
Yeah.
So purchase.
And I think white corduroy shorts.
Wow.
Oh, man.
And by the way, I had just, as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, gained a lot of weight because we had just moved to the Northwest of America. And I was having a really tough time in life. And I really didn't want to take my shirt off at the beach. That was just a thing. It was like, as I can recall it then, it was really a thing. So we're driving and like we saw this somewhat deserted beach. You know, it just was like we're driving in a place where you don't ordinarily stop. But there's nothing there. There's no signs, whatever. So I don't know. We just stop, walk through this little jungly patch, and then we're on the beach. And so I go in, and I went in without my dad. So I'm just kind of there in this wide open expanse of beach, just like sort of alone and like kind of trying to figure out something to do, enjoying it. And then there was this like thread coming out of my bathing suit. And it was like a plaid bathing suit. So I remember thinking that the thread looked exactly like the plaid. It like had the same striations and stuff. So I just keep pulling at it, and then I realize it's wrapped around me, and then I start to really, really sting, and then I keep pulling at it, and then I realize like I'm wrapped in like a little baby, and then I don't know that it was one of the really deadly ones. Obviously, I'm not dead, but the signs that we saw later were like warning, you know, like it was a bad sight. We shouldn't have been there. I don't know why it didn't hurt more or like affect me more, but
The one thing I've never heard about jellyfish is if you get one on it, don't antagonize it by just pulling at it.
it was amazing because I think I found the little body. It was like a baby, but its tentacle was so long. That's my memory. And so I spent the night in a bathtub of meat tenderizer. I remember that was like the thing.
Wow.
Huh.
I hesitate to ask, but did your dad have to pee on you?
Yeah.
No.
That's what I wanted to
Isn't that
know.
the
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
No, that wasn't on our radar
Okay.
at all, I think.
I also don't know if it's actually what you're supposed to do. I feel like I've heard recent things that's like, that's not what you do.
I think, recently I've also heard that this was maybe a very long con by some people who are looking for excuses to pee on people.
That just brought a memory back of I went to the beach with another family, and there was a girl my age, and we wanted to prepare in case we got stung by jellyfish. So we decided it was a good idea to pee in cups.
Oh,
And
yeah, have it ready.
Just have it ready. Just prepared.
Yeah.
So we then transferred them into bottles, and they were just
Whoa.
laying, you know, our families had like this like little tent on the beach, and that
Oh,
this
no.
just looks like apple juice or something.
No.
And we got in so much trouble.
Oh, but I thought
Once
nobody
they
drank
found
it.
out. No, nobody drank it.
I feel like you were just prepared for
Yeah,
a horrible eventuality and
Slightly
had
off
something
camera.
gone wrong.
There's a little bottle of pee.
To this day.
Just
right
case. You never
I will
know.
say we went to the beach this summer with the kids, and someone, like an adult, walked over, a friend of my in-laws, and said, "Oh, I heard there's jellyfish." And I just was like, buddy, now my kids aren't going to go in the water for the next month. Just keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
That actually brings up a memory for me. My mom, she's passed away, but this is an odd thing to say, but she had like moments of clairvoyance. And there was a trip. So we were going to a little island, offshore island called Gilligan's Island. And we were like pulling out of our condo. And my mom made my dad turn around and go back. And he was like very frustrated. We had to catch a boat. And he was like, why? And she's like, I left something upstairs. And he was like, fair enough, we're going to be late. And she was like, I have to get it. So she goes upstairs and she comes down with a bottle of rubbing alcohol. And my dad is like going to lose his mind. He's like, why do you need rubbing alcohol for the beach? And she's like, I don't know. I just had a feeling I needed to bring rubbing alcohol. My dad is like in a bad mood on the drive to this island. We make it. There's like a part of the water that has, I think, mangrove. So it's like bamboo trunks in the water. and it had a strong current, and I was trying to swim against the current, and I got really tired, so I go to rest on these mangroves, and basically it's like a hive of jellyfish. So they sting both my legs, and I get paralyzed. I couldn't swim out. And so my sister came in and like swam me out to the shore. But basically it was like enough poison that it could have caused severe damage. But the rubbing alcohol like helped heal the poison. So it was extremely painful. Like she poured the rubbing alcohol over my legs before we could make it back to the main island to go to a hospital. But it like prevented my legs from some sort of like major damage. The fact that she had brought that rubbing alcohol.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
That's
it
amazing.
was a very strange, yeah.
Did it get to a point where if she ran back in the house to get something, you would then know what the disaster would be?
It's like, why didn't you just tell me not to rest at the mangroves? Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. Hi, Pashi.
Hi, Sophie.
I'm very excited because the holiday season is coming up. I am going to have mom and dad for Thanksgiving. I believe you're probably going to have them for Christmas. Is this correct?
This is correct.
And I think we both do a very good job of planning big special meals. You cook a Christmas dinner, you have a Thanksgiving dinner, you go out to restaurants, and sometimes all of a sudden you realize, oh no, I have no idea what we're eating today. And that is why Factor is incredible. It's America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. It can help you fuel up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You save time, eat well, stay on track with your healthy lifestyle while tackling all your holiday to-dos.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just can get overwhelmed with these big holiday meals, and sort of for those meals around them, it's nice to maybe be able to skip going to the grocery store, all the chopping, the prepping, the cleaning up, while still getting all the flavor and nutritional quality you need.
You know how dad acts like he's the king of England?
Yeah, without the accent.
Yes. It's like if the king of England grew up in Pittsburgh, he expects to be treated like royalty is what I'm saying. So you can't tell him it's time once again for leftovers from the exceptional meal you made last night. And this summer, we had him at the house, and all of a sudden I remembered, oh my God, this is great. We ordered our Factor meals this week. Dad, do you want sweet potato grits and sage chicken? Or if not that, how about chicken Alfredo pasta? He was as happy as I'd ever seen him. He took off that crown he wears and wiped his tears with it. Head to factormeals.com/trips50 and use code TRIPS50 to get 50% off. That's code TRIPS50 at factormeals.com/trips50 to get 50% off. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by Nissan. Posh, these days too many people have to settle for the next best thing, especially when it comes to choosing a car.
Yeah, but at Nissan, there's a vehicle type for everyone, for every driver who wants more.
Whether you want more adventure, more electric, more action, more guts, or more turbocharged excitement, Nissan is here to make sure you get it.
Because Nissan is all about giving people a whole spectrum of thrills to choose from with a diverse lineup of vehicles.
Sports cars to sedans to EVs, pickups, crossovers. With Nissan's diverse lineup, anyone can find something to help them reach their more. What are you looking for more of, Josh?
I like a nice ride. I like a nice sound system. I like something that's comfortable.
You like to have room to load up a bunch of gear, go somewhere, do an adventure.
I do. I'm never happier than when I have sort of a full car, a roof rack on my car. Makes me happy.
And all I need is a cup holder for an iced coffee.
And Nissan can provide you with both of those things.
So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of Family Trips and for the reminder to find your more. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Here we go.
The first time I went to Hawaii is the only time I've ever rented a Jeep Wrangler because it just feels like the right kind of car to be driving there. But we got like a hard top and we got to the car rental place near the airport and we popped the roof off and started driving, and instantly it started teeming rain.
Oh,
And
no.
it was, we were soaked. The interior of the car was soaked, and we had to like pull over and like sloppily try to put this roof back on. Did not know what we were doing. And it was like, oh, I got burned by this. I should have taken the sedan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we had the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can like recall. I can just have a sense memory of my dad swearing as he like tries to figure out the like the rubber windows, the plastic windows.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the rubber. That's so funny. I do feel like at the Hertz in Honolulu, they call the Wrangler the sucker. Like, so they just know, they're like, we'll get some sucker in the Wrangler. They're going to think they're Mr. Hawaii.
Yeah.
All right, so that was your one trip. Oh, I should say real quick, because you mentioned it, the working for an airline and getting the standby tickets.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we had a cousin, right, who worked for
Yeah.
American Airlines, and I was living in Amsterdam, and this used to happen a lot. But Josh flew over on one of these tickets to visit me. And then for, I want to say 5 days, you would go to the airport to fly standby and then just not get on the plane.
Yeah, I wasn't getting on the plane. My girlfriend at the time, like a college girlfriend, I want to say I was still in college, was coming to visit our parents. Like she was going to come stay with me in our house. And eventually she was there. And my parents were like, we have to just buy you a ticket. We can't keep waiting for you to make it on standby for this $50. It was insanely cheap. And if it works, it's amazing. But when it doesn't work and you keep going to the airport.
What a nightmare.
And then your girlfriend is hanging out with your parents alone.
Is that why you broke up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was a factor. Didn't help.
My parents are great. You don't want to spend, if you're dating one of us, you don't want to spend 3 straight days with our parents without one of us around.
Your parents seem amazing.
Yeah, they do.
Our parents are amazing.
Yeah, they're great.
We're bracing ourselves because every year on my show, bracing makes it sound negative, but there's some truth to it. So every year for Thanksgiving, it's very hard to get talk show guests on Thanksgiving for obvious reasons. And so since the first year of our show, the guests on our show have been my parents and Josh. And every year people are like, are they going to do it again? And I was like, do you know how uncomfortable the conversation would be if I had to tell my parents you're not going to be on the show this year?
They've come to expect it. They're
going to be on forever.
They also, like, you get paid sort of, the SAG minimum or whatever it is. It's like $1,200 to be on a talk show. And my mom is so excited to get that check in the mail.
I would be too.
Yeah. And then they rerun it and you get like $800 for that. And she calls herself an heiress, and she says they contribute to her heiress funds.
Yeah. She talks about the $2,000 like she lives off it all year.
That's really sweet.
We've got a lot to deal about that. All right, so you had one to Hawaii. Do you have another one, Penn, that you remembered?
We lived in Washington State at this point in this phase. And by the way, shortly after this period, my parents would divorce, and then I would move to LA with my mom, and they basically start working. And then the only time I would travel again was for work, like once I was in my 20s. So we rented an RV, like a small RV, and drove around the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. And I recall, meeting all these different families at different lakes. There's not a lot I can recall, but it was like, I would say the morale and the environment my parents were able to foster on a trip, the bar was low. Like the bar, the bar was very low. So it just, I think, and I was an only child,
Yeah.
So it's just one of these things where like, we just were not a family that did this, and it just didn't work well for us.
Do you think there was an expectation going into it, which is, you know what? I think if we do this RV thing, which is a very stereotypically American vacation, everything's going to click together, and the three of us are going to be our best selves. And how quickly on the trip do you think everybody realized that wasn't going to be the case?
I think like getting into the RV. I think it was like an RV is. You know what? I think it's my mom was selling RVs at this point. My mom was always.
All your vacations are based on your mom.
I'm not kidding. Like so my mom was very successful as a broker in the 80s and like late 70s on Wall Street. She proved to have this like quality to be able to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we were a family, she would just constantly be finding a relatively short-term job to sell things. And so the same summer, I'm pretty sure she was selling Nescafe. So we would like drive around in our conversion van, and like were we like door to door selling Nescafe? I don't know why we had a car full of
So it was a
Nescafe
work
and why
trip.
we were always driving around. No, but then this RV is different.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure the Nescafe would have been like a part-time thing. The RV, she sold RVs for a while. And I think that was why we were able to rent one. It was like, super cheap. It was like driving around the 3-hour radius of our backyard, in the Northwest. And it actually very beautiful. Like I have really kind of special potent memories of like the incredible beauty of Washington State. But it's like, kind of like a sad kid alone in the woods, that kind of beautiful, not like haha funny.
Like sort of like indie music beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Penn, so much of my early like teenagehood is me wanting to be a character in a movie like that. Or like I remember we moved to a new house at one point and
Miserable
I
and
would
alone. What do you like? Which
like I would imagine myself
White corduroy shorts,
chubby,
little chubby.
I won't take it.
really
Was it-
short.
like was there any part of you that was like this is cool? Like to be kind of like moody in the woods?
No, I would say. I mean, you know me well enough to, like, physically, I am a naturally very pretty skinny person. Like, it's hard for me to gain weight. I would say the fact that I got chubby was not just the like pre-hormonal stage. I'd say, you know, it was like I was going through a phase of depression as a. This
Yeah.
is why we have our show. This is what I bring to our
Sure.
show because we
Right.
talk about, you know, this.
Depression and misery.
Sadness.
Yeah, exactly. The misery alt.
It wasn't all bad. You had that Quicksilver wallet. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's like again. It's easy to recall the very special. I think what you're trying to bring out, Sophie, is like there were things that I loved and could really appreciate, but it wasn't light. It just wasn't light,
Yeah.
and it was you know, I did love, like, music was an incredible solace. And I do think actually the outdoors in Washington State was an incredible solace.
What were you listening to? Or like, what genre? Where were you?
And were you listening when you were in a car? Were you with your parents? Did you have to like listen on headphones?
Yeah, Discman or a Discman. Then I would have been listening to mostly rap and jazz. I really got into jazz at that age.
It's funny, jazz makes sense, but because you said you liked music in the outdoors, like rap in the outdoors don't seem like it's very fun. Like I just like to put on some rap
Yeah.
and just like go, you know, connect with
Just
nature.
relax.
And watch the sunset.
Here's what I actually loved about rap was the samples. You
Yeah.
know, and at that age, you know, you're not exactly going to understand how to read the liner notes and find the samples and all that stuff and go back to the Isley Brothers or whatever. But that is really what I was loving. And then, you know, the conscious rap that would come out a bit later, I really loved and was really moving. But I hear you. I mean, you know, Puff Daddy, No Way Out was it's not like a Northwest Rainforest soundtrack, but it is the only record I can really recall. There's also Genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who tried to get me to 9 Inch Nails, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's true because you actually were part of or near enough to a musical moment that was happening.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Nirvana and all that. But I couldn't get into rock. I really didn't like. I just was really all like rap and jazz then.
That was another weird thing about our family is we collectively agreed on the music.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of music were you guys listening to on your family trips?
I think, you know, John Prine is a musician, a sort of a singer-songwriter from, you know, folky. And we listen to a lot of that and Bob Dylan. We listened to one Stevie Winwood album.
Steve Winwood.
Yeah, but he was I consider him family, so Stevie. It's Stevie Winwood and Steve Nicks, right? Am I getting that mixed up?
Right.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, Back in the High Life. Was that
Back in the High Life, that was big. Anita Baker, we listened to a lot of Anita Baker.
Yeah, that Rapture album because we had vinyl, and our mother would always play an album when she was cooking. She doesn't know how to create Spotify playlists.
Yeah.
And she has Spotify and she has Sonos. So I have her login details and I will log in as her and try and add playlists to her playlists now.
That's so sweet.
This is an album that I know you like, and I'm not trying to throw her new music. I'm like, here, this has Annie Lennox and Bette Midler, and you know, I've created sort of like a diva playlist for you. Or this is like Florence and the Machine, who I know she has said that she likes, and I try to feed her things that she will be able to play, and I hope she's listening to them.
Josh is so much better at this than me. Josh tries very hard to enrich my parents' life and help them through things like technology, whereas I have no patience. When my mom shows me her phone and asks me to help, first of all, the font on the text is so big.
Yeah.
It's
that
crazy.
it's like one word. It's just like, can you read this email? And I'm like, you're just like scrolling forever because there's just crazy.
Yeah.
So Josh is far better that way.
I mean, I know I'm wearing glasses now. It helps me to see all of you, but I don't think my font is that big. And occasionally people will look at my phone and be like, whoa. And I'm like, what? Like, that's not a whoa, is it?
Yeah, you
but
have like a
apparently-
special empathy for your parents that Seth doesn't have.
Yeah.
My mother's iPhone is like a portal for chaos because she's a bit hard of hearing, and so the ringer is so loud, and it flashes and it buzzes, and then like say if she's with my 3-year-old, I'll like maybe go grab it, and then I do the same thing. I open it. It's so bright. The text is so large, and then I see her inbox, and it's like, Mom, you are subscribed to literally probably over 100. I mean, I'm just like, she is being preyed upon by all the digital forces, and it's just chaos. And I'm like, Mom, how do you deal with this? How on earth are you dealing with this inbox?
I think she's just trying to pay it forward. For years, she was knocking on doors selling Nescafe. She's like, this is, you know what?
I get it. These bots are trying.
Yeah, they're trying. And I was out there. I was pounding the pavement back in the day. I'm trying to say which one of your parents sounds more like they were in the CIA. Penn, who vaguely knows what his mom was doing.
Yeah.
Or Nava. That's a good cover story. Like you guys, the amount of places you were. It's like that. Oh, no, not Nava. Sophie, right? You were the one.
Sophie.
Who,
UNICEF
Sophie,
is a great cover.
UNICEF's a great
Yeah.
CIA
I think it
cover.
sounds so
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the children. No, yeah. I was just gonna say that my mom is actually very tech savvy, but then she's recently been sending me reels, so many reels. She just sends them all day, and then she'll call me. Did you watch my reels? I'm like, no, not yet. But the other day, she sent me on Instagram. She sent me a link to a Facebook video, like a Facebook version of a reel. I was like, okay, she's starting to lose it. It's like she's gone from tech savvy, she's starting to devolve a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors.
Hi, Pashi.
Hi, Sophie.
I think I have a favorite Airbnb, which is when I was at SNL, a bunch of the cast members, you as well, we went to Amsterdam, which is where you and I used to work.
Yeah.
And we spent a few days. And we decided to stay at a couple of Airbnbs. And it was just great. They were right next to each other. And one of them had a hot tub. Do you remember the hot tub?
I do.
A balcony hot tub. If you'd have told me, does Amsterdam have hot tubs? I would have said, that's insane. You're crazy. And I think every now and then you get an Airbnb for the extra space, maybe for a little backyard. But also, don't underestimate getting an Airbnb just because it has a crazy thing
Yeah.
that you're never going to have in your own house.
And I mean, you know me, I'm a huge fan of hot tubs.
Yeah.
I've never met a hot tub I didn't like.
Never said no.
Right. That is an amenity that you can search for specifically. And, every New Year's, I feel like I stay at an Airbnb, and you bet your bottom dollar there's a hot tub there.
You like hot tubs so much, you've tried to Airbnb just the hot tub.
Yeah, that's a different website.
Yeah, Airbnb will not just let you stay in a hot tub for the 2 or 3 days. If you're looking for something spectacular, a little something special, something that you never could have conceived would be in a home you would own, go spend a couple days in one. Enjoy yourself. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by the McDonald's app. You're on a road trip, you got 3 kids like I do. Sometimes you realize we need to get some food in them. They love McDonald's, and the only thing I don't love sometimes is getting stuck in line, especially when they're hungry, which is why the McDonald's app is fantastic. You just order in the app, pick your favorite location, select curbside or counter, and then head to McDonald's. Boom, your food is ready. Your kids are happy. The road trip is saved because it means no waiting in line, no dealing with the lunch rush, just some hot and fresh McDonald's that's ready when you are. That is a VIP experience. Is it the morning? Do you want a sausage McMuffin with egg and a premium roast coffee? Well, guess what? They don't do it in the morning. I'm kidding. Of course they do it in the morning. They do it all the time they're open. It's fantastic. Order ahead in the app to save time. Prep while you're on the way excludes drive-thru at participating McDonald's. Copyright 2023 McDonald's.
Here we go.
I have this weird thing. So again, I have 3 kids, so I think I should be the really busy one. Our mom and dad are so busy. I call them, they answer 5% of the time. And then when they do answer, they're always either at a dinner or to go, and they're always like, hi, I can't talk. I'm like, all right, geez, Louise.
That sounds
It's sad when that happens.
I get them on the phone pretty regularly and pretty easy.
So, okay.
So I don't
We're
know.
starting to see a narrative.
Actually,
it's
sometimes
very
my
hurtful.
dad will call me by accident, or I'll just see a missed call and then I'll call him back and he'll be upset at me. He'll be like, I'm busy right now. And I'm like, I'm literally returning your call. He's like, I didn't call
I
you.
have things to do.
It happens I think like once a week that happens.
Nava and her dad are really charming together. They're very, very funny. The way they sort of like bicker and joke is Nava, why do you call him you alternate between like dad, daddy, and Tommy, right?
Mhm.
Am I
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. It's like I'm not and there seems to be like an intuitive use behind each one or something.
He hates it when I call him Tommy in his presence.
Oh, he does?
He
Yeah.
hates it. So I'm trying to unlearn it. When I'm thinking of him as like being particularly a character, he's Tommy. And like Tommy's such a character.
Yeah.
So when I'm telling a story where he's being like such a character, I refer to him as Tommy. Yeah.
That's really
He is.
great.
And he tells jokes like and I mean this in a good way, like he's 100 years old, like he's from a different time. He's from a completely different time, and he really gets into it. It's so incredibly charming.
It is so, again, and I'm of comedy, and yet kids sometimes will hear, like their parents will say, oh, Seth, it's a comedian. And they'll come and go, tell me a joke. And I have no jokes. I mean,
You need to hang out with Tommy.
Yeah, I can text you some, Seth.
but that's what I mean. I'm like, I got to learn, because I feel like a previous generation is like, they always had 100 jokes.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you need? Give me
Yeah.
a topic.
Wait, can I ask you a question? I don't know if I
Yes.
should wait for our podcast, but you mentioned you have 3 kids.
Yes.
I know the birth story of 2 of them. How
Yes.
quickly did the 3rd one come?
Oh, great question. Yeah, almost an Uber, fully to lobby, and then because of that, our baby daughter was a planned home birth.
Ah.
So she was born in the bathtub.
Oh, wow.
Basically, the doorman said, "We don't want to see you.
Stay up there.
Don't come down till your child is a week old."
You can press the button for the elevator, and the elevator's not coming. It's not coming.
But I should say, and I know this is probably not the reason, but all of our kids have the vibe of where they were born. Like the middle one, if you said, which one of these do you think was born in a lobby? Like you'd be like, oh, that lunatic.
He's the one with the zingers?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the singers. And our daughter is the chillest because she's never been in a hospital, right? She never had to be around those blinking lights and all that.
Wow.
That chaos that I think as a parent, especially with your first kid, you like knowing that a nurse is going to come by every hour, but I'm sure the kid hates it.
Hmm.
And so
Definitely.
our baby daughter was born and just lied down next to my wife. She was born at 10 o'clock at night, then just slept through the night. Our
Oh,
boys
that's-
woke up and it was like Christmas had delivered.
Aw.
I walked in, I'm like, yeah, I got something to show you. And they
That's
just got to like walk
amazing.
into our bedroom and see this baby. It was the best.
That is amazing.
Wow. That actually is so interesting. My sister just had her second baby, and her second birth was a home birth, and that baby's way chiller.
Yeah,
So I think there's something to that.
there is something to it. I wouldn't have had the guts to do it first.
Mm-hmm.
I think the order you want to do it is definitely hospital, then lobby. Lobby's definitely number 2. Because after lobby, when your
Middle
wife's like, I want to
child.
do it in a bathtub, I'm like, do it wherever the fuck you want, as long as it's not.
That's so funny.
Penn, I have a question about, so you have a stepson you mentioned, and you have a son,
3,
correct?
Yeah.
Big gap, but have you
Yeah.
gone on vacations with both of them?
Well, so Miami was the first time that we went on a vacation
Gotcha.
together because COVID was, so like my work takes me to enough places where I don't feel like I'm deprived of travel.
Right.
But if I really think about it, I've almost never gone on vacation. I did it
Right.
once when I was on Gossip Girl, and it was insane. Went to like India and Thailand and the Maldives, and it was like so phenomenally expensive. And I was kind of like, I can't do that again.
How long a trip was it? Did you like really take a big chunk?
And no, it was still only like it was 13 days.
That's
I mean,
a
it
good trip,
is
though.
a big chunk, but I
Yeah.
wasn't gone for like a month
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. So yeah, Miami was the first one, and I think maybe that was why it was nice. We all went as a family. Some cousins joined us, and it was just not remotely relaxing with
Yeah.
children around, but it's restorative. It's something else.
Yeah.
We did when our kids were, I want to say 4 and 2. We went to Miami, so we just had the 2, and it was the same thing. It was like either February or March, leaving New York, easy flight.
Yeah.
Spent the whole time at a pool in a hotel. And I just said to my wife, this is it. We should never go farther than Florida. And she's like, I agree. This was so easy. And then the next year, my wife was like, I want to go to Uruguay.
Yeah.
And so not only I thought we'd crack the code with Florida, but the next year we had to go to Uruguay, and which if you can make it there is exceptional. I cannot recommend it enough, but it is not an easy trip.
And you also had a flight get canceled, and didn't you have to spend a night in the Miami airport?
Yeah, we were nearby hotel. The plan to go to Uruguay because it's the same time zone, so you want to fly it. It's like a long flight, but at night, no jet lag. So we left New York at 6, landed at Miami at 9, and we were supposed to get on a flight at 10 to Uruguay that would land at 10 a.m. And we were like, great, the kids will sleep the whole flight. Land in Miami, and they said your flight's been delayed 12 hours, which is the worst number of hours.
Yeah.
Because now you have to sleep in a hotel and then wake up, and your kids are up for a 12-hour flight.
And how old are they again?
They were 2 and 4. And it's the
tough.
most tired I've ever been. Also, it was March, and the only song my 4-year-old wanted to hear, he wanted us to play music to help him fall asleep, and it was an Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas album, which is not what you ever want to hear.
I love that album. We love
good,
that album.
yeah,
It's
I-
actually on your mom's
all bangers.
playlist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good. If you're ever in the Pacific Northwest, just walk. If you're a sad
strolling
preteen,
yeah.
over the river and through the woods. And so, but the other thing was I was so tired, and we were going back to the airport. I had a stroller that Axel, the 2-year-old, was in, and I looked down, and he wasn't in the stroller.
Oh.
And we were getting onto the shuttle to go back to the airport, and I said to my wife, I don't know where Axel is. And she said, you're holding him.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
And I was so tired. And I remember looking at him, and I wasn't even relieved.
Wow.
I couldn't even generate relief. I'm like, okay, well, call off for the dogs.
Yeah. I definitely in the last year recall a moment like that. I was
Yeah.
looking for my son and was holding him.
Is your stepson helpful at all as an extra pair of almost adult hands?
I mean, if he wasn't helpful at all, he'd literally be like resisting the human urge
Sure.
to be
Right.
to be loving and kind. So no, he's not helpful at all. He could be more helpful. He could definitely be more helpful.
But you could leave your baby by a pool, say, and have your stepson be like, just watch him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
For
For
yeah.
sure.
If you had to
a
run to the
short
bathroom, not if
period of
I'm gonna go.
time.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go see a movie.
I got left at a party recently with a 2-year-old, with an almost 2-year-old, and it was so fun to just sort of sit with her at this table. There was a lot going on, but her mother had to go get some water for the baby, and she said, "Can you watch her?" And I was like, "Of course." And I don't have a ton of experience talking to kids, and I just spoke to her like an adult, and it was a baby shower, and I said, "Do you know that Ruth is going to have a baby?" And she said, "Yes." And I was like, "Okay, great. That's fun, isn't it?" She said, "Yes." And she pointed at a balloon. I was like, "Those are balloons." And she said, "Yes." But we didn't really get into it, but it was,
No, I think you did.
Yeah,
She's the next guest on family trips.
yeah. Josh is very good at small talk.
she was standing on a chair, and I just had my arms around her to make sure she didn't fall off of it. And there were other mothers around who were sort of clocking that I was awkwardly dealing with this child. And they were like, "You did good." And I was like, "Oh, thanks."
I had friends of mine wrote this really good movie called Dumb Money, Lauren and Rebecca. And, our talk show right now, because of the SAG strike, we obviously can't have actors on promoting SAG work. And so we're, getting creative. And they came on the show, and I've been at their houses, at the respective houses for things like barbecues. And they were saying, it's so nice to see that you actually see you working, because all we ever see you doing is chasing a kid around a lawn. And I was like, so nice. I was like, isn't that nice? I'm actually there's one place on earth where I'm a big deal.
Yeah,
The rest of the time I'm just chasing these little dicks around.
Yeah. But that right, I totally get what you mean. I mean, I'm like a full-time, part-time dad, and it's I think it's as hard as it can be. It's what keeps you sane.
It is. It absolutely keeps you sane. It is. With that said, when the writer's strike ended, I got to go back to an office with a door. I wasn't unhappy.
There was a study in a country outside the U.S. I can't remember which country, but basically dads wanted their wives to have like 3 kids and the wives wanted to have 2. It was something along the lines. Basically, the men wanted the wives to have 1 more kid than the women did. And then in this study, the men were asked to like really be full time with the kids while the wives went off and did other things. And it wasn't like normal in that culture. And then almost all of the men were like, no, just 2. Like they all changed their mind about wanting an extra kid.
Interesting.
Although I've been saying, I think going from 2 to 3 is weirdly easier because like you have nothing left to give. Like there's nothing. What else? Like there's no change in my life from being a father of 2 to a father of 3.
Yeah.
And it was during, the third one we decided to have during the pandemic. And I think we were like, you know what? If there's ever another pandemic, it'll nice to have another set of hands in the house when we aren't allowed to go out in public.
It's for labor.
just for cheap labor.
Yeah.
All right. So Josh now is going to ask our question. And I think these are going to be based on how interesting some, not Penn, some of your lives have been. These questions are going to be better than usual. All right. So Josh, fire away.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go, if we can answer these in order. Well, we'll see how we'll feel it out. But if you can only pick one, is your ideal vacation, is it relaxing, adventurous, or educational? Let's start with you, Nava. Let's go Nava, Sophie, Penn.
Relaxing.
Relaxing, 100%.
I'd say adventurous because with kids right now, they're not going to be relaxing.
Plus, we all know that based on your construct theory.
What's restorative?
What is your favorite means of transportation? A train, plane, automobile, boat, bike, other?
Train.
Plane, just because you can get to such cool places.
Yeah.
If you're with family, train.
Train.
It's just, it's just something about it's more manageable.
Trains are great. If you could take a family vacation with any family other than your own family, which family would it be?
Does it have to be one of their families?
No.
I actually think it would be your family.
This Tommy sounds like a
No,
hit.
he wasn't going to choose mine. I'm not even his
It could be
friend.
fictional. It could be fictional as well. It could be.
That's
they
a
could
great
be
question.
from historical.
Well, a family without kids based on everything.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a really good question. I have to think about it.
I mean, honestly, I would almost want to say the Myers family. It sounds to me.
You wouldn't regret it.
We'd love
Yeah.
to have you.
Yeah. I want to go with you guys to Japan. So put
Yeah.
that out
Okay,
there
good.
twice.
Yeah, you'll join
Yeah.
us for that. Great.
Great. Exciting.
All right, and Sophie, we've got too many people with us for our Myers
Yeah.
family trip to Tokyo.
So you have to
So
pick
if there's
something.
another
This
family
is
that you'd like to
really
go on
a
a trip.
theme. I was just telling them on an episode we recorded a couple days ago that I'm like the nub of the family, and that's like the joke, and it's it's very funny, but it's not. I'm very important, and you need to acknowledge it. And this episode has just confirmed it. Not only in my own family, in my Podcrushed family, barely friends with Penn, not invited on the family vacation.
Actually, we have room. We have room. I've looked, and we do. Yeah, there's a rollaway. There's a rollaway that we can get.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't mind.
I think, Sophie, this is kind of like when, if there's a fight at every bar you go to, you're the asshole. It's sort of like maybe you're the nub. You're the one creating the dynamic here.
I think
I don't know.
so,
Just a thought.
I can't think of any families. The only family I can think of in my head are the families in Modern Family. I think I
that's
would
good,
choose
yeah.
one of them. I love
Yeah.
that show.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
It's
answer.
good family.
I mean, it'd be wacky.
Yeah.
Something would happen. If you had to be stranded on a desert island with one member of your family, who would it be?
Okay, I have a nephew named Zane. It's probably quite cruel to take him away from my sister, but he's so funny and fun. We would die. We would perish immediately, but I would bring Zane. It would just be a great time for the 5 days that we're together.
I like you're
Yeah.
the first person who has seen this question where you think in the hypothetical of this, you are taking the person with you to a desert island.
Hey, Zane, want to go be stranded and
So
die?
you're responsible for bringing them to basically be your company.
Yeah.
Definitely my mom. She would just provide so much entertainment. We can talk for hours. It'd have to be her, Helen.
Great.
All right. Congrats, Helen.
Can I say my wife?
You can.
Yeah,
No,
you
you
can.
can't.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, David.
David did not register a blip. The speed at which she said Helen.
Didn't hesitate.
And then Nava, you're from San Juan, as you consider that your hometown.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that as a vacation destination for a family trip?
100%. I mean, I would broaden it to Puerto Rico. And if you want to go, I can help you plan your vacation. I spent a year there during the pandemic. Like I went back and it was the best year of my life. I loved it. And I just rediscovered how gorgeous Puerto Rico is.
And you use the beach so much.
I went to the beach every day. I made up for my childhood of neglect.
Yeah.
I literally
to that beach, like to the one you never went to as a child?
Yeah, I walked on it every single day. I think I missed one day the whole year.
And you would tell people, you're like, I grew up here. And they're like, how come we're just seeing you now?
First time.
Sophie, what do you consider as your hometown where you're from since you bounced around? So is it Beijing?
Yeah, I guess I could say Beijing. I would recommend Beijing as a place to visit only if you know people who live there. Like I don't think you should go purely as a tourist, or if you would have answered educational to the first question, then go to Beijing. Yeah.
That's very good.
And Penn, it's Tacoma? That?
It was not Tacoma, actually. That was just like the closest town. It was Tiger Mountain. It was like this mountain where we lived.
Tiger
outside
Mountain sounds like a amusement park ride.
Yeah.
But probably not that much fun.
But I bet it's beautiful. Would you recommend Tiger Mountain as a vacation destination?
It wouldn't make sense as a vacation destination, but I would say the Northwest, if you go to places on the Olympic Peninsula, I mean, there are rainforests that are like dripping in moss, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it is a really, really, really stunning natural beauty. The ocean there is, it's very cold, so cold that it like makes you sort of shudder as you get in and out. But I mean, the beaches, they're stony, but again, gorgeous. It's like a severe beauty, but you know, Olympic Peninsula, Seattle, that whole, it's very special.
All right, great.
All right. I like that you guys kind of went 3 for 3. There, it does happen where people are like, absolutely not. Like, don't, no. Hard no. All right, and then Seth has our finishing questions.
First part of this 2-part maybe question, have you been to the Grand Canyon?
I lived in Arizona for a couple of years, so every time anyone would come visit me. So I've been more times than I care to.
Okay.
I have been once, just recently, like a few months ago. I went to the Grand Canyon.
I have only been once. I went with, when our littlest was 3 months old. We were driving across country during COVID to go shoot the 3rd season of my show. So it was a little chaotic. It was stunning. I could not believe it.
Okay, because that was the follow-up is it worth it?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Absolutely not.
actually was like, this is crazy.
I think absolutely not. I really that's like my hot take is the Grand Canyon. We did go to the North Rim, which I hear is not like the best part to go to. But
it's like Nava's Beach.
Yeah, we went.
It's the Nava's Beach of Arizona's or the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, it's murky. We went on a road trip in the Southwest, and the Southwest has so much to offer, and there was so many cooler things. But we did find at the trailhead, the bathroom, someone had left their gun, fully loaded gun,
Whoa,
in the bathroom, just like at waist height.
Wow.
Gosh.
That was the
You knew
only
it was
interesting
fully
thing that happened at the Grand Canyon.
Oh my gosh.
How long
Yeah.
did you spend there?
Probably a couple
Not
hours.
in the bathroom, but
with the gun.
a couple hours. But I just think there's so many beautiful places. Bryce Canyon, stunning.
yeah.
Lake Powell, incredible. So many
Mhm.
beautiful parts. The Grand Canyon's not on my top.
This is the worst answer for the Grand Canyon's PR. No, just for the Grand Canyon's
the
PR. Because
gun.
the fact that you're pro Canyon,
Yeah.
just not the Grand Canyon. You're like, look, I don't dislike canyons.
It's true.
Just if you're gonna check one out, Bryce is the canyon.
But I just like, my experience was so different. I was blown away. I mean, like, I feel like I had never seen a vista so extremely grand, and my eyesight felt like it was like it was like psychedelic to me. I thought it was just crazy, crazy beautiful. We were also there, by the way, for sunrise.
Well, also, we've confirmed that you've not gone anywhere in your entire life. So
Yeah, that's
Miami and the Grand Canyon are the two most amazing.
It's time to get out, Penn.
Well, it's also true when he's like, I don't know, Miami's great. There's a horizon. You're like,
Yeah.
where have you been?
It's like you don't only have to stare at a wall. Like you can. There's actually like a sky. It's
I'm
incredible.
so happy that at the Grand Canyon there were no jellyfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Nava, you've been the most.
I've been the most. I think it's worth it in two ways. As part of like a stop as part of another tour of Arizona, like Sedona's beautiful. So like just do it all in a day. Or do one of those like hiking trips in the Grand Canyon where you like go down and you see all these like lakes and things that other people don't see, but you have to be quite fit to do those.
All right.
I would say it's worth it.
Great.
Those are great answers.
You know,
Really
I should
great.
say, I can clarify. I'll just say, I was not expecting.
I don't want to be the
Grand
only one who's
Canyon.
like pro. Grand
No. I was not expecting it. It was not a trip we took to go there. So you know how the context
Gotcha.
can make such a huge difference?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We were slogging across the country during the pandemic with our whole family and our 2 dogs.
Yeah. This
And it
is
was
a
like-
this is a huge walk back happening right now.
No. So all I'm saying is like maybe that contributed to I was truly, I couldn't even, I was for days, if anybody asked me, I was like, have you been to the Grand Canyon?
It's okay that you loved it, Penn. It's okay.
It sounds
I
like
love
what
it
Penn's
too.
saying is it's worth going to it if it's by accident. Try
Happen upon
not
it.
to know what you're about to see. This is such a delight. Nava, Penn, Sophie, the Podcrushed team. It's been so wonderful talking to you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're very much looking forward to talking to you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. This was so fun.
No, thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye.
Ooh, Nava, Penn, and Sophie. Sophie traveled all around the world. In the end, she's just a Staples girl. Target and Best Buy was such a win. Eating Betty Crocker from the tin. Meanwhile, Nava was down in Puerto Rico. Lived on the beach, but the water was too murky. So they drove to a different beach, to the whole other coast. And now with Penn they crushed. Penn and Nava, David and Sophie. Crushed. Not really David, actually. Crushed. I mean, he works behind the scenes. Crushed. Ooh, didn't take it personally. Back when Penn was just a chubby boy, with his shorts made out of corduroy. Quicksilver wallet so cool with the chain. He went swimming, but there was some pain. He reached down, pulled the string, and then he felt a sting. Because that string, don't you know, it wasn't his. It belonged to a jellyfish. Just a baby one, but still not super fun. Crushed. Hurry, someone get Penn some pee. Crushed. There are cups over there filled by Sophie. Crushed. He used me tenderizer actually. Vacations are a construct. Yeah, let's spin some Puff Daddy.
Thank you to Airbnb for sponsoring this episode.